Call for a roll call of magistrates and establish a quorum.
Mr. Elder. Here. Mr. Wicker. Here. Mr. Smothers. Here. Mr. Caldwell. Here. Mr. Masterson.
Here.
All present.
All present and counted for, we begin to proceed. Okay, the first item of business, I guess,
That's not a pen.
be the minutes of previous meeting.
Yes, pen.
Motion approved. Second.
Yes, pen.
Mr. Smothers.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Elder.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker. Mr. Masterson.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, item number 2, the last couple of meetings we've been working on this. We've got another little resolution that County Attorney Joe Manning got over to me today. That's part of your all's packet there on the desk. We approved the purchase of a fire truck, and that necessitated we do a little budget amendment. We're going to be intaking an additional $179,000 worth of loan money. So we, I guess Treasurer Kevin Cochran has prepared a first reading document for the ordinance for the budget amendment. Need a motion to approve.
Motion.
Motion.
Mr. Elder.
Yes.
Mr. Smothers.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Mr. Masterson.
Yes. Another thing on that fire truck, Judge, they're wanting to maybe put the old truck in the auction that we're gonna have. Is that something we need to vote on, or?
Well, I mean, if the court's agreeable to it, the more items we have, probably the better little auction we'll have. I think that fire truck actually titled to the city of Brownsville really doesn't make any difference to me, as long as they get permission to sell it in the county.
They'd have to have the city, if it's in the city, they'd have to have City of Brownsville declare it surplus for the county's auction. And then once they do that, then they're in good shape. Yeah.
You got that on? Can you get this straightened out?
Yeah.
Mayor, even there, this or next meeting. If y'all want to, if you look on your desk, there's 3 or 4 additions there. One of them that was added today is this resolution that County Attorney Joe Magna had that authorizes me to sign the loan documents from People's Bank. And the second resolution is a resolution that authorizes the county to withhold the annual obligation to repay that loan. There's actually 2 resolutions there. One is authorizing me to borrow the money on behalf of the fire department, and the other is a resolution authorizing the court to withhold the annual obligation payment.
Motion to approve the resolution for the financing of the purchase of the fire truck and the resolution to withhold the city or Brownsville Fire Department's annual funding.
Mr. Elder.
Yes.
Mr. Masterson. Yes. Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Smothers.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Unanimous.
Okay, item number 3, I guess about the last meeting day, we had a gentleman from the state that was working on a project out on Shoreline Pike. There's a bridge that's going to be replaced out there, and in so doing, they discovered that one of the abutments is actually going to touch a piece of ground that is still, by deed work, described in the adjacent parcels as a old county right-of-way. And Tom and I were talking about it, and I guess it looks like it might have been the old entrance to Guthrie Mays Road at one time.
That's be my guess, where they had to cross the creek.
They have described that property, it's about 700 square feet, that they need to have deeded from the county to the state to construct the new bridge. So they have the deed work and the picture that you got there that describes the property. Just need a motion to approve the transfer of the property to the state. Second.
Mr. Masterson. Yes. Mr. Smothers.
Yes.
Mr. Elder.
Yes.
Mr. Wicker.
Yes.
Mr. Caldwell.
Yes.
Unanimous.
There was another bridge, Tommy, that on Crane Town, where the lady told me about the blacktop was dropping. Growth on each end.
Okay, item number 4, we have a delegation here that we've seen a few times before. Always glad to have the FFA and members present. They're such a good group to work with. Always produces a quality product when they get through with the high school. So, Mr. Sandusky wants to address the court about their annual tour. So if you Wood.
Thank you for the opportunity to come and speak with you guys today. What we're planning on, about 2 years ago, we came up with this idea for a summer ag tour for the students at the high school. So we came to petition the court, and you guys were able to help us with some funding on that. Last year, we had enough money in our account that we were able to fund our own little tour. And this year, we're headed back to, we're going to travel south this time. We're going to stay in Kentucky, but we're going down into Bowling Green, Western Kentucky, Hopkinsville, that area. Again, we're taking a busload of kids down. And we're coming back to ask to see if you guys could help us out a little bit again. When we do these trips, I send everybody out an itinerary and associated costs of that itinerary. And our goal is to try to keep it to a minimum charge for the kids. We're hoping to be able to keep that to about $50 a kid to get everything covered. And we've already secured the bus for the trip. And so, we're here to ask if you guys could help us out a little bit. We've got a few days before we have to send some money in, some more money in. So, give you time to massage it, talk about it, and hopefully you guys can come back and offer some kind of assistance for this tour. We'll fill the bus up. We have it fairly full of kids. We do have a couple seats we're holding on our very first tour. We're fortunate to have Master Matchton go with us. We're hoping he'll be able to do that again. So we have a couple of seats open, and we'd like to offer to you guys if your schedule allows. I know everybody's work schedule's tough, and we understand the economy's tough right now, and the funding is tight as we see it in our industry also. So if you could help us out, we sure would appreciate that. If anybody's got any questions, I do have all the breakdowns of the agendas and everything with me, the costs associated with that and everything. So if you have any questions, we'll be glad to address them.
How many students is on your,
As a chaperone, okay?
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
As a chaperone, all right?
I'd say the kids had a bigger job watching you.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll just say we were entertained.
Yeah, you may say 2 seats, one to watch him.
It worked out, huh?
How many students? I'm sorry.
We've got about 50 students, nearly 50 students lined up. Now, at the end of the day, we know there'll be 1 or 2 drop off, 1 or 2 add. The bus will hold 56 riders. We're required through our FFA advisors to have a percentage of chaperones on that bus, as Steve was fortunate enough to serve as one of those. We worked with Freddie Higgin and Joe Passy to put this trip together, and they've been really tremendous to get some stops set up for us. One of our big tours is Western Kentucky University's Ag Department. We're going to tour that extensively, and we found out that Mr. Higgin is quite known at Western Kentucky University. So he's chancellor president there. So when he sends an email, he gets really quick responses.
I think they call him the big dog down there.
He appeared to be the big dog.
One thing also, Mr. Sandusky, and I don't know, Mr. Mangley, if you're aware of it, but the court each year gives a lump sum donation to the Board of Education. And we do this with the thought process and actually with the directive of assisting programs such as yourself, FFA, band, so on and so forth, because we know that, it's hard to raise money and so forth. So what I might recommend also is that next year, you might alert them as soon as possible and see if you can possibly get some funding from them as well.
Who do I need to contact about that?
I would say that, I would say Dr. Hamilton.
Yeah,
but,
I think so too.
I don't think that's going
Not a
to.
possibility.
Lisa Cowell would have all the past records on where it's been dispersed from. We sent a list out there when we transferred that money for the board to make that disbursement. We were getting about $10,000 worth of requests every year from different intracurricular, extracurricular groups affiliated with the school, and the court thought, who better to make that decision than the school themselves? So we just transferred them the money and told people who contact us about school-related activities to just contact the board. And some of the funding that we have done in the past didn't appear to be requested, but it should be at least partially there.
Of course, that had been public knowledge. That's the first I've heard about it, actually. You mentioned it.
I kind of figured that.
I'll get on the board tomorrow.
Well, and when you do, I'm sure either court members or judge included, if you need a letter of endorsement or support, just let us know. But that is a pool of funds there available, and I think that's part of the problem. I don't think too many organizations do know about it, because just like FFA, you've got several others that need funding as well. So just want to make you aware of it.
Well, surely whenever everyone knows the pool of money's there, first come, first served, I'd say, because you want to be early on that.
Get to the trial.
Usually disbursement.
Usually disperses right after the fiscal year budget's approved, and they usually have it in their hands by the 1st of August, by the time school starts. I did send a report for the current 12-13 school year, and it's about expended, but it went to a variety of things from special ed to T-shirts to, I mean, they used it for a whole lot of things we never got requests for.
No,
So,
Bottom line, just word of recommendation is, I'd go ahead and get my letter typed up, tell them you need the support and get it in early. As Master Master said, first to the trough usually eats best, so.
oh, well, never mind.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm gonna buy some hats for some of the money. Can we buy some hats for some of the money this time?
I think we provided you sunglasses last time.
You did.
y'all did have a good breakdown, and excellent itinerary, and it looks like a full schedule.
It's very full.
As far as the outlay of the money, it looks like, nothing extraordinary, excessive on here. It's pretty brutally put together for the most part. I don't know if the court has any particular plans today that we can move forward with.
Yeah, I think what we're going to do is review it, and I appreciate you giving us an opportunity to have some time to look at it and see if we can work something out. So I think we're going to review it and then kind of go from there.
Thank
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 5, you all have a copy of a request for some support to help the Marion County High School baseball program. Seems their batting cage, outdoor batting cage is in terrible condition. I didn't know they still had one out there at the high school personally.
Yeah.
So evidently it needs a lot of repair.
It's an outdoor.
The other thing is, says that they don't think there's going to be able to afford an indoor facility anytime soon. Of course, the city and the county just jointly went together to put up an indoor facility.
Well, and that's one question I've got. Looking back at, for example, like the money that we were discussing with the FFA, I believe this fiscal year, the Board of Education did give the baseball team $1,000. Okay.
They committed to $1,000, the way Kirby talked, but they haven't given it to them yet.
But the other side of that is that the facility that we went together with on the city of Lebanon and built out there, I don't know if any of you guys have been out there, but it's an awesome facility. Have you been there, Mr. Cochran? It's awesome, isn't it? So, and if you remember, that was one of the things is that we discussed, was that not only was it for the public and for all our youth leagues, but it also was for the high school softball teams, baseball teams, so.
That's more than a discussion, that might have been part of the concept we did this for.
Exactly. Exactly.
It's a whole lot of people, and maybe so much demand that not everybody gets all the time they want, but again, it is a great asset for the community to have.
Do you know any associated costs with this? I mean,
It's not specific at all. I mean, that's the thing, it does not ask for a specific amount, it's just kind of a generic request.
We can get more information from them. I'll contact Lisa, sent me a letter. I'll contact Lisa or Kirby and get some more specific information on it. Because they're not.
Guys looking at what was the money spent more last year, I think there would be some, maybe spend, ways we would like to be spent more that hasn't been spent. And bad in case maybe ones that won't.
Right.
I'd like to see some of the funds maybe spent in a different direction, what we're giving.
well, correct me if I'm wrong, Judge, when we agreed to do funding for that $10,000, okay, didn't you give them kind of an idea and give them what we had spent the money?
It was supposed to be for,
So here's my point, is that we've done our due diligence, and the judge has done his due diligence in informing them in regards to how the organizations and what we'd like to see the money spent for. And we've done our due diligence in following up and seeing where they spent the money. But I think the bare fact of it is that we need to revisit that with the board and let them know that, that money can be pulled at any time. Not that we don't want to, but at the same time, we want to make sure that organizations such as FFA, band, so on and so forth, especially non-revenue generated sports.
that's what it was for, the ones that didn't generate revenue.
And non-revenue generating activity will get this money. And I'd like to see more spent that way.
Absolutely.
Let's get with.
I mean, you can look at that list where it was spent.
That's right. It's not looking good.
Not that they're not valid needs, especially in
Oh, yeah.
and T-shirts.
Well, I mean, the field trip, the special ed, I thought that was excellent because obviously but when I see that the purchase of T-shirts, okay, $1,000 or $800 worth of T-shirts. Or I see-
$2,000 for looks.
Yeah, so you know, when you see those expenditures,
Looks are not athletic.
yeah, I mean, go-karts and, I mean, bottom line is, I know when Mom gave me money for milk, if I came back with Coca-Cola, I was in trouble, so, you know.
Well,
Let's get this straight, yeah.
We got one more step to take, and that's to be sure that the money's spent that we
Yeah.
want to spend.
Judge, if you could send them a letter and copy the court on it, just let them know that, you know, for giving, again, just acknowledge the groups and organization activities that the money's intended for.
The type of
Well, the guidance that we sent with them when we forwarded the money, I guess our preference would be that those were the type of activities that the money was intended to fund.
Absolutely.
Right. We thought they were going to follow that, but they had their own choices, so.
Let's send a letter and see if we can get what we wanted, and we can go from there, okay?
Thank you.
Yeah, we kind of got off topic on item number 5 here on the batting cages, but I guess we're just going to wait and get a little more information on the fiscal needs to effect that repair.
Yes, sir.
I'll get
Sounds
some
good.
more information from them on that.
And item number 6, I guess, since we don't have anybody here is anybody here from Little League football? Steve Deering called me Monday, and I told him that I would put the packets together, and he was supposed to drop something by to put in the packets. And Tuesday, I was pretty much out of the office all day. I don't know of anything that came in, so I didn't get anything in the packets. But what it's involved, I might just give you this little heads up. They went to the city council last meeting, and they have a storage issue with their helmets, their shoulder pads, and the current place where they're storing them. Evidently, they have a lot of heat, it's not a controlled environment. I guess they're throwing them in the attic or some building out the park somewhere.
It's a little block building, actually, right behind the KC Hall, Knights of Columbus Hall. It's just an old building that's been there forever.
But he said that the state of which and they don't have any restrooms, they don't have what they were asking the city was to consider putting back up a building that would serve 2 or 3 purposes. They wanted it on the grounds up here where the Little League football program's operated. And the city basically said that because of the historical designation of that ground and stuff, that it would probably not be able to be put back on it. They tore down one that was I guess a grandstand and a concession stand, and I don't know, it had some storage area and stuff with it, but it was in really bad shape. They tore down the old building that was up there, but I guess that was before they got the federal dollars refurbished the center square. I don't know, maybe they do have some restrictions on what they can build back up there, I don't know. But they kind of pointed toward the county, and they used maybe this part of this green space over here on this side of the driveway that they could maybe put some sort of storage building up. I don't know if they have any place down in the old shop building that's not used. They don't have access to restrooms up here when they're practicing, because a lot of times the nights they're practicing, they have buildings used, and whoever rents it has kind of controlled access to the outside coming into the building and has restroom needs themselves. So they really have a need for restrooms and storage space, and maybe ideally in the concession stand area. So they've got, and the city did say that if they get some support or commitment or site or whatever from the county, that they would assist with that project. So I don't know if they've got any numbers together, I don't know if they have the size of building plan or anything.
If you were doing like concession stand, would it have to be located within a football complex,
You would think ideally to not have kids crossing this driveway so we can shut this road down during football games and stuff and not have traffic through it.
the old Johnson Field that we're talking about?
Yeah.
Well, isn't it kind of separate in that, like that's from the Center Square building, it's like a
Different parcel.
different,
Well, I mean,
They can't get in the Center Square building for restrooms?
no, actually, I know when my children played soccer and so forth, actually the bathrooms are always open with outside access on the center square, or the soccer field or football field side. So, technically, they can gain access.
Yeah,
Now, I don't know.
football, but I remember going in.
Right, so there is access there available for restrooms, because I know that we used them. And
That's how old I am.
you're that old?
Yeah.
You're pretty old. But anyhow, so there is access, there is access to it now. You know, that's whether the city wants it or allows it or whatever, I don't know. And I know that concession stands, we always, you know, we just always load our stuff up. Whoever's turn it was brought a table, and we set it up, sold greases and suckers and airheads and soft drinks and so forth, so.
So maybe we can get some numbers and go from there.
It is,
They have a big
didn't have anything
crowd?
else come in and kind of back up, put it on the agenda.
Yeah, pretty good crowd.
It started out as strictly just a storage building to start with, what they were talking about originally.
I don't remember the conversation that they had with the city, but I know it's kind of gotten evolved a little bit since they decided they might consider doing a joint project at the county entertainment.
Well, you know, actually, you would think though, because it's football, or just like any sport, it's a season. So, you know, technically, I know working with youth sports before the season, you go and you do an inventory of what you got, okay? Then you get your applications, you disperse what you have, all right, and have everybody sign for it. And then the families or the kids keep it themselves until the end of the year, and then they all bring it back when you have the dinner or reception, and you take it and you stick it back in the building for another year. So I guess my thought is that I didn't know, you know, I'm thinking maybe they're only going to really access it twice a year. So I didn't know maybe if the old PD's got some room, or if there's a building the city has somewhere. I mean, you would, even with the center square up here, you would think there's a spot somewhere.
Just to store that equipment.
Yeah, and I will say this, I'm not against the storage building, but I'd hate to build a building in between on the green space out here in the grass between our parking lot and the field. Now, two reasons. Number one, I like the green space, but the other side of it's what Master Quayle brought up, which is, I don't think you want a concession stand over here when they're parking all driving up and down through there, so would they have to leave the field?
Soccer and football, or the.
Well, it gets used quite a bit, those lights on spring and fall for soccer.
Yeah, soccer and football. And they have good crowds. I mean, they have very good crowds.
It's very active, at least 200 kids play that big football. I mean,
Now, you don't see, it's primarily football now, though. You don't see as much soccer now. They might practice there every now and then, but as far as games, they're predominantly held out at new fields.
That's right. Yeah.
So they've got, I guess they've got 4, 5, 6, or whatever new soccer fields out there, so. But anyway.
Until we get more information and some additional guidance on what the facility is they're looking for, we can do anything on that either.
Thank you.